For the LNU, the SCU, and the CZU Lightning Complex Wildfires, it appears that things are finally coming to an end. Now obviously when it comes to getting 100% containment, clearing dangerous dead trees, restoring utilities, and beginning to rebuild, there's a long road ahead. But I believe it is now safe to say the dangerous expansion phase of these fires is behind us. Now with that being said, there are some concerning areas of the weather forecast that we're going to talk about and we'll want to keep our eye on over the next couple of days, but overall, I would say that things are looking pretty good right now. Now, one area of concern is in the air quality. You can see the South Bay is unhealthy air quality right now. I have a number of friends who live in San Francisco who all texted me this morning saying, "What's going on with the fires? The smoke is as bad as it's been this entire time." The reason for that is a high pressure system moved over the area and is really just compressing that smoke all near the surface. So the first fire I want to talk about is the LNU Lightning Complex. And if we zoom in here, this very coastal fire, they're saying that one's about 100% contained. This west zone that you see here, this is the area that has really been extremely challenging for CAL FIRE. It's a lot of steep, rugged terrain with heavy fuels. But as you can see, there aren't many of these hotspots left all around the perimeter of this fire. So these little dots here represent hotspots. This line is the fire perimeter. And as you can see, there aren't many hotspots left. So going over to the main zone, there actually are still two areas that are actively burning and of concern. But I know CAL FIRE has made this area up here and this area right here a priority. And the reason I'm not super worried about this is we now have more resources on this fire than ever before, and they're going to be able to direct all those resources right here and right here to really just get some lines around this and put this fire to bed. When it comes to the rest of this fire, like this eastern, southern, and southwest zone, I know CAL FIRE is actively trying to repopulate some of these areas, so you'll have to check out the CAL FIRE website to see all the recent evacuation notices. Now, looking at the numbers for the LNU Lightning Complex, as of right now, this is the third largest wildfire in the history of California. You can see the containment is up to 35%. Like I said, check the CAL FIRE website for evacuations, as I know they're going to be lifting a lot of them, hopefully in the next couple of days. So in total with this fire, we had over 1,000 structures destroyed, 4 injuries, and there were 5 fatalities associated with this fire. So as always, if you or any of your friends or family have been affected by these wildfires, my thoughts and prayers go out to you. Now here's where some of the good news comes in. Personnel continues to increase. We now have over 2,000 personnel, 38 crews, 17 helicopters, almost 300 engines, 70 dozers, and 68 water tenders. And like I said, looking at this map, they're just going to be able to put all of those resources on this northern area that is still actively burning, as well as this area near Calistoga and Middletown, where you can see there are still a couple hotspots, not as bad as we've seen in past days though. CAL FIRE said they're making some great progress, especially in this area, and they hope to just put it to rest by the end of the week, hopefully. So looking at the forecast, this is where some of the concern starts to come in. I'm not too worried because I think they're really going to be able to get a handle on all 3 of these fires before we see this warm up on Monday and Tuesday. You can see for the next 2 or 3 days, temperatures are actually trending about the same as they are today. And then Monday and Tuesday, they're going to kick back up again. So if we actually look at the charts, you can see the next 2 days, there is some concern as we have warm temperatures. It's not the 90s or the triple digits, but it's still warm. And then we do get those afternoon winds that have been causing some trouble for firefighters. And humidities are going to be low today. So just a reminder, humidity, you don't want to see it low because when the air is dry, vegetation gets dry. And just like in a campfire, if you're trying to start a fire with a wet log or a dry log, the dry log is a lot easier to start a fire and burns a lot hotter. So that's where low humidity isn't exactly what we want to see, but it's not in the teens, so I'm not too worried about it. Really, the worry is Monday and Tuesday, but I think we're going to have a handle on these fires by the time that warm up comes along. So the next fire I want to look at is the SCU fire, and I would say this one is looking even better than this LNU complex. Here we still have those two areas that are still actively burning and moving out. For the SCU complex, we really just have this southern edge here, and it's not really near those high population areas that we see in the LNU complex. The main high population areas for this fire are along this western edge, and if we zoom in, it's almost difficult to find any hotspots along this entire edge. And CAL FIRE has a ton of lines in right here, so this fire I don't think is really a big threat to these cities anymore. Now, with that being said, don't take my word for it. Check the CAL FIRE website for all the recent evacuations. I know they're trying to repopulate, but life safety is their number one concern. So this southern edge is still expanding. I know it's expanding a lot slower than it has throughout really the entire history of this fire, but you can see there are still some hot spots, and it is outside of that previous fire perimeter. So it is still expanding in the south, but not nearly as much as we saw last week and the week before. Now, when it comes to the stats for the SCU Lightning Complex, this is now officially the second largest wildfire in the history of California. Almost 373,000 acres burned, but we're at 35% containment, and that number is just going to continue to go up. Just like in the LNU fire, there's a lot of personnel and equipment on this, and they're just going to be able to attack this southern edge, really put this fire to bed. So again, check the evacuations. There's too many for me to even try to go over in this video. Now, damages and losses associated with the SCU Lightning Complex. We have almost 50 structures destroyed with this one. There have been 5 injuries. But you can see we almost have 2,000 personnel on this right now, 23 crews, 7 helicopters, 238 engines, 44 dozers, and 41 water tenders. So they're going to be able to take all of these resources and really attack the remaining parts of this fire just to get it contained and done with. So similar forecast for the South Bay that we saw in the North Bay. Temperatures are basically hovering throughout the weekend around those high 80s, and then Monday and Tuesday they're really jumping back up to the mid 90s. So that's really the concern right now. But again, this far out in the forecast, you'll notice in my videos this whole last week, I don't really focus this far out because the confidence in a forecast more than 3 days out isn't all that great. So I'm mentioning it, but I'm honestly not too worried at this point. So looking at the forecast for the next 2 days, you can see temperatures are warm. We do get those little afternoon winds that have been tricky for fire behavior, and the humidities are going into the low 20s tomorrow. So it's obviously not going to be easy. I always say, oh, firefighters are building lines and getting some good containment. That is some hard work, and these are warm temperatures, low humidity, so it's by no means going to be easy, but in comparison to the beginning of these fires when they were growing at 100,000 acres per day, I would say things are looking really good. So the last fire we'll talk about is the CZU Lightning Complex, and this fire is honestly looking the best out of all 3 because I really couldn't find any areas that appear to have those hotspots. It was almost hard to even find some of these active fire areas. And I know they did get some great containment around Felton yesterday. They had a good burn operation, fighting fire with fire. They've got some great containment on this eastern edge and the southern edge. That's been the main priority for this fire, basically for the entire last week. And as you can see, it doesn't look like there's many hotspots left in this thing. So I'm feeling great about the CZU Lightning Complex, especially for these populated areas here. Now, one thing I will remind you, Santa Cruz County put together a great damage assessment map. I put the link in the description where you can actually click into the streets and addresses and see what houses have been damaged because of this wildfire. So looking at the stats for the CZU, it is now up to 82,000 acres. It's up to 26% containment. I'm actually surprised this number is not higher. I'm sure over the next few days, we're just going to see that continue to rise higher and higher. Now, evacuations, I know a number of them have been lifted in Santa Clara County as they've gotten great containment on that northern edge of the fire. But just check the CAL FIRE website to see if your area is available to repopulate. I know a big problem with the CZU fire is there's a lot of really big trees that have been damaged by these fires. Those have been falling over a bunch in the last few days, so I know CAL FIRE is trying to clear those out before they let people back in. So we are up to 800 structures destroyed with this fire. There is one fatality associated. So as always, my thoughts and prayers go out to anyone who has been affected. Now we are up to over 2,000 personnel, 34 crews, 12 helicopters, 202 engines, 17 dozers, and 32 water tenders. So they're going to be able to take all these resources and really attack wherever the remaining fire is with this one. I couldn't really even find it on the map. Looking at the forecast, this is looking a little better than the other areas because it doesn't get as warm Monday, Tuesday. And the next 3 days are in the mid 80s. There is some haze today. Again, that air quality is unhealthy. But, I mean, what can you say? The forecast is looking pretty good for here. This area has had some great marine influence. It gets a lot of that fog in the morning, brings in some high humidities in the morning. And then for the lower elevations, humidities at night have been 90 to 100%. So that's really been helping the fire suppression effort throughout really the entire last week for this fire. That coastal influence has been great. So you can see over the next 2 days, mid 80s, it doesn't appear to be very windy, winds under 5 miles per hour. That might not be as true for the higher elevations in the coast, but for the most part, not very windy. Humidity stay above 30. So again, true for the CZU, the SCU, and the LNU. I would say that things are looking really good for these fires. So let's just check out the charts one more time to see kind of the history of these fires. And this really illustrates why I'm so confident that these fires are coming to an end. You can see between the 19th and the 22nd, the LNU Lightning Complex just took off. There were some days where it was burning almost 100,000 acres a day. But honestly, since the 23rd, this graph has been basically level. And this tick up at the end here, on the 27th to 28th, that's mostly in that northern portion. But I'm pretty confident they're going to be able to throw some resources at that, put that northern portion just to bed. Now, we have a similar chart when it comes to the SCU Lightning Complex. This thing was just taken off, especially between the 20th and the 21st. You can see that's basically 100,000 acres burned in one day. But for the last 4 to 5 days, really not much has been happening with this one. And that's mostly due to that southern edge has been moving a lot slower, and they've been getting some great containment on basically the entire eastern and northern portion of that fire. When it comes to the CZU, the worst day was the 19th to the 20th. It burned 30,000 acres. And I know it looks like it's been steeper since the 23rd than at least the other graphs look. But again, that's just because we're dealing with smaller numbers here. Like from the 24th to the 25th, it goes up 5,000 acres. So it looks like it really jumped up. But if you compare that to 5,000 acres on the other graphs, that's basically where those graphs were showing it was flat. So CZU, honestly, I'm feeling the best about this fire. I think we're going to have this one wrapped up hopefully in the next week, and people could start moving back in and trying to just get back to normal life. Now, a few things I will say. One, thank you to CAL FIRE. Honestly, huge thank you to CAL FIRE. You guys have done amazing work the last 2 weeks, and I've also appreciated all the updates and information you've been giving. It's basically the only source I go to when gathering information for these videos, so big thank you to anyone who is a CAL FIRE personnel or has helped out in any way. Second thank you is to San Jose State Fire Weather Research Laboratory. Basically everything I know about wildfires through my work with the Fire Lab and Dr. Craig Clements. And third, I would say thank you to you guys. You guys have just been very encouraging, showing a lot of great support, a lot of positivity in the comments, and I've really appreciated that. And from my end, this may be my last report when it comes to the LNU, the SCU, and the CZU Lightning Complex wildfires. At least I hope this is my last report. But when it comes to wildfire in general in California, this is honestly what I plan on doing for the rest of my life. So anytime there is a major wildfire in California, for possibly the next 25 years, I'm going to be here reporting on it. As always, if you or any of your friends or family have been affected by these wildfires, my thoughts and prayers go out to you, and thanks for watching.